So obviously there is a lot of buzz around the new 2025 Ram heavy-duty pickup truck lineup, both the 2500 and the 3500 series, as well as the commercial chassis cab series trucks. Now there is a lot of information out there, and I'm going to go over a lot of that information, plus I'm going to try to provide you some information that perhaps the other videos that have already been produced on this truck have missed. So let's talk about it. Hang tight. I'll be right back. So right off the bat, the first thing I want to go ahead and put to rest is that I'm not aware of any direct F450 competitor from Ram yet. Now, when I say F450, I'm specifically talking about the F450 pickup truck version, not the chassis cab version. Ram does have 4500 and 5500 series chassis cab trucks, but this is not going to be that specific truck that I know a lot of people are looking for with a pickup truck bed. Now, this is a big deal because I think a lot of people were hoping that Ram would introduce a pickup truck version of the 4500, 5500 series truck to compete against the Ford F450. And as of the production of this video, I am unaware of any such truck existing. So if you're still looking for that truck from Ram, then most people, what they do is they get the 4500 series chassis cab or a 5500 series, and they take it to an upfitter to either have a hauler bed installed on the back or even retrofit a 8-foot pickup truck bed to the back of the truck, which again, it's a pretty popular option for a lot of folks out there looking to create their own pickup truck version of a Ram 4500, 5500 series pickup truck. All right, so getting back to it. So to call the new 2025 Ram heavy-duty pickup truck all new wouldn't necessarily be accurate. There's a lot of carryover components to this truck in terms of what you're going to see from the cab back. Now, when you look at the front end of this truck, for sure, this is an all-new front end. They've gone with a very, very bold, very steep, and very large grille setup. It has an absolutely commanding presence to it, and sometimes I kind of wonder if these hood lines are getting too tall. I've made the point in other videos where if it's difficult to see over the hood to judge distance, maybe they should figure a way to make it a little lower profile. That said, though, I gotta honestly tell you, the look has grown on me. Since the initial pictures were released a while back, since all the comments and feedback around, this double-decker light setup and how massive the grille was, I think most people would agree that the overall look has grown on them. I think it is an absolutely fantastic looking evolutionary change. You can absolutely tell that this is a Ram truck that you're looking at. There's no disguising it at all. And to a lot of people, that's simply going to mean that they've evolved from an already good-looking truck to a newer truck. So I'm cool with the front end. I think it looks good. And there's several different grille and front end options depending on the trim of the truck that you're looking at. Now, something I do like, regardless of the trim, you're going to have LED headlights and fog lamps now. Before, you had to go to a higher spec truck to get those, and pretty much your entry-level trucks, your base model trucks, only came with a standard halogen projector headlight. So I really love the fact that Ram is giving you LEDs on all trims. That is something that Ford and General Motors aren't doing. So if you get either one of those trucks, you're going to be stuck with incandescent, really low-end headlights, essentially, whereas Ram is giving you a much, much nicer, brighter front headlight area. Now, for some ranchers out there, for some folks who live in heavy snow country areas where you get a lot of snow accumulation on the front of your vehicle, I know halogen headlights produce more heat, and some people like them better because it can melt some of that away. But I think most people would agree that LED headlights is the better evolutionary change, more light output, cleaner light output, and it's going to be a safer driving experience as well. Now, from a tail lamp perspective, what I've read is that they're available in LED tail lamps, which to me means that it's going to be dependent on the trim level of the truck that you get, and that there are still going to be some lower trim levels that will have incandescent bulbs in there for certain functions. I'm pretty sure there will be some LED aspect to them, but it may mean that, again, you have to get a higher trim truck if you want an all LED tail lamp. And while we're still talking about headlights, what I'm not clear on is if the headlight technology from the previous generation has been retained in terms of if they rotate side to side, depending on which way you're turning, or if they've added auto leveling, which is basically the ability for the headlights to level to the road if you're hauling a load or if you're going over certain types of terrain and the truck headlights might normally bounce up and down. Ford has offered auto leveling and auto rotating headlights on the 2023, 24, and newer for Platinum or Limited trims, which the Limited trim's pretty much gone away, so it's Platinum or Platinum Plus. But Ram had the side-to-side rotating lights, but they never had the up and down rotating lights. So I'm going to find out if they've added them to this vehicle, because this is something that I've asked for a long time, because it enhances towing safety whenever you have a load in the back of your vehicle and the headlights might normally be blinding somebody. This puts them back down on the road where they should be. So again, I will try to find out and get clarification on that. Now let's talk about another exterior exciting feature that I know a lot of people are going to be happy to hear. They essentially did retain the mirrors that they recently upgraded to a few years back on heavy duty trucks, which no longer flip up, but they electronically slide out, and they give you the ability to even adjust your spot mirror, which is really, really nice. They're the only ones that currently do that, and I definitely think that people were welcomed that enhancement and upgraded change. They've added some styling differences to the mirrors, but the mirrors still slide out now versus flipping up, and again, I think that that is just probably one of the biggest exterior changes that I've appreciated in the last couple of years, and it's good to know that they've just made small evolutionary changes to that for this current 2025 model. Now, before we move to the interior and talk about some of the changes there, let's talk about the powertrains. Let's talk about the numbers, because I know that this is probably the single most important aspect and what people really want to know. Is Ram competitive against some of the numbers being put out by Ford now? And we really can't use GM as a comparison here, because GM just hasn't really cared over the last couple of years. They have kind of gone their own way, limiting the maximum amount of power they could probably get out of their engine and opting for what they consider to be more reasonable numbers that are still highly competitive. And Ram has kind of done the same thing, but in a different way. I think truck manufacturers are finally starting to realize that for this light duty truck segment, basically 14,000 pounds or less, most owners aren't towing 37, 38,000 pound trailers, gooseneck trailers. Most of them aren't hauling 30,000 pound fifth wheels or 25,000 pound conventional trailers. Ford seems to kind of be going their own way in competing in this space, constantly making their numbers go up, but Ram and General Motors are playing a little bit of a different game. And this is new for Ram. So Ram used to compete directly in this space, always wanting to crush the competition in these areas, but they've opted for a different approach here. They've actually reduced their lowest end gear ratio and changed to a 342 gear ratio to give you more improved fuel economy, while at the same time actually limiting the maximum towing capacities of some of their vehicles to a, I'm not even going to say reasonable numbers. These numbers are still absolutely insane, and they are far more than 99.999% of owners would ever subject their vehicles to, and they're still very, very close to the numbers of the outgoing truck, but they've opted for a more practical approach, while at the same time giving you better fuel economy, which I can appreciate. So if we're talking about the base engine in the heavy-duty truck lineup, whether it's a 2500 or 3500 series truck, you're going to get the 6.4-liter Hemi V8 engine. It's a gas engine and produces 405 horsepower and 429 pound-feet of torque. It's paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission. It's called the 8HP75-LCV transmission. It's the standard transmission. And new for 2025, and I think a lot of people are going to appreciate this, Ram got rid of the 2 different versions of Cummins engine that you can get. So now if you want the diesel option, you only have one option, and it's a single 6.7-liter inline-6 Cummins high-output turbo diesel engine, which again, I think a lot of people are really going to appreciate that, because you finally have a truck that you don't have to say, well, I have to now pick an engine choice to get the highest output or save some money and get a lower output engine. So I really like the fact that they've gone to a single platform. It produces 430 maximum horsepower and 1,075 pound-feet of torque, and it is also paired to an 8-speed transmission, but this is called the ZF Powerline automatic transmission. And if you get the 6.4-liter gas V8, you can get the available 410 rear axle, but if you are opting for a diesel, the lowest gear ratio you can get currently is going to be the 342, which is supposed to give you still substantial towing capability, but also improve efficiency and better fuel economy. Now, before we get into towing capacity and payload capacity, let's talk about gross vehicle weight ratings, because this is an area where Ram, again, kind of refuses to do what both General Motors and then Ford opted to do, and that was to raise the gross vehicle weight ratings of their 3/4 ton trucks and even their 1-ton trucks to give the trucks a higher payload capacity. Now, whether raising that number actually led to mechanical changes to make the trucks actually carry more, or if it was just designed to make the truck competitively sound better, I really don't know. So typically when you're looking at pickup trucks that have a higher payload capacity, it's usually because of one of two reasons. First of all, it's because it's a low trim truck and it doesn't have a lot of luxury amenities. It doesn't have the extra weight of a larger diesel engine, and that gives back some payload capacity off of the gross vehicle weight rating, which again, if it means that the truck weighs 8,000 pounds and it has a 10,000 pound gross vehicle weight rating, then 2,000 pounds is your cargo capacity. When you look at some manufacturers who inflate the gross vehicle weight rating of their vehicle and they make it 11,500 pounds, well, if the truck still weighs 8,000 pounds, then you have 3,500 pounds worth of cargo capacity. So what Ram did, again, they didn't really go super crazy here. So on the 2500 series 3/4 ton truck, you have three different options in terms of GVWR. The first one is going to be a 10,000 pound option, which is designed for fleets only. So this is going to be a commercial application. You get 10,190 pound GVWR, and that's going to be the more common application for most trims in the 2500 series lineup. And then you also have kind of a reduced version of 8,565 pounds. Again, I think that's also going to be in certain configurations only. But by far the most common application for folks probably watching this video is going to be the 10,190 pounds, which means depending on the trim level of your vehicle, you could have anywhere between just, I guess, roughly 1,900 pounds up to like 2,400 pounds for most configurations that people are going to buy a 3/4 ton Ram 2500 truck in. Yes, you can get it at a higher payload capacity, but it's going to have to be in a more stripped down vehicle and likely with a gas V8 engine versus the Cummins. Now, if you're opting for a 1-ton and you want the 3500 series, you can also get that in three different gross vehicle weight rating options, which again is going to determine a lot of your payload capacity. The most common one is likely going to be the 10,750 pound GVWR, but there's also an 11,500 pound and a 14,000 pound GVWR. The 14,000 pound is going to be your dualies. That's going to be a dual rear wheel truck, whereas 11,500 is probably going to be your max tow or your higher payload capacity version of a 3500 series single rear wheel truck. But again, you have to be cautious here, because if you don't opt for the right package, you can find yourself in a vehicle that has a lower payload capacity than you probably think. So this is why it is so important to specifically know what truck you're looking at, what the gross vehicle weight rating is of that truck, and what the payload capacity is. Really, if you just look at the door sticker, it's going to give you the cargo carrying capacity or the payload capacity, and that number should be specific to what you plan on towing, what you plan on carrying in the vehicle, and how you plan on using the vehicle. So just because you see folks out there talking about maximum payload capacity, maximum towing capacity, that doesn't really apply to your specific case unless you're looking at the exact truck that they were using to reference those numbers off of, which in most cases is not the truck you're actually looking at buying. Now, another piece of information I'm sure people want to know about is going to be the axle size. So on all 3/4 ton trucks, they'll come standard with an 11.5 inch rear axle, whereas your 3500 series trucks will either have an 11.5 inch or a 12 inch axle, depending on the specific configuration of the truck that you're looking at. And dual alternators is also something that's available for both gas and diesel trucks, whether you get the Hemi or whether you get the Cummins, which is really nice because a lot of folks need that extra power if they're going to be powering other accessories or they just need to maintain their batteries. Okay, so let's quickly talk about towing numbers. Now, this is one of those areas you also have to be very careful because the maximum towing numbers I'm about to go over may not apply to every truck, and they certainly may not apply to a truck that you're looking at. So if you're ordering a truck, if you're going to a dealership, it is always a good idea to look up the VIN and specifics on the truck you're looking at to make sure they have the numbers that you need. So first of all, let's talk about the 2500 series gas engine. That would be the 6.4 liter Hemi, a maximum towing capacity of 17,750 pounds. If you're looking at a 3/4 ton or 2500 series with the Cummins diesel, that will have a maximum towing capacity of 20,000 pounds. If you're looking at a 3500 or 1-ton gas, maximum towing capacity is going to be 18,150 pounds. And if you're looking for the maximum tow capability out of a Ram heavy-duty truck in a 3500 diesel configuration, dual rear wheel, this is not going to be a single rear wheel truck, it's 36,610 pounds, which again is an absolutely insane number. Actually, all of these numbers are pretty dang insane, especially if you're thinking of like a conventional trailer, like a travel trailer or a cargo trailer. You're rarely going to find any of those that are going to be over 14,000 pounds. Your largest of the largest destination style travel trailers are typically between 12 and 14,000 pounds. Very few ever go over 15,000 pounds, which is still well beneath what some of these numbers are actually showing. So again, don't get caught up too much on these crazy insane numbers that you're seeing applied to this light duty pickup truck segment. Because the reality is once you get into some insanely high numbers, you're probably not going to want to use a standard pickup truck to tow these trailers anyways. At least I wouldn't. Now let's talk about fuel. So first of all, I don't have any type of fuel economy numbers for these trucks, and I think most people realize if you've been looking at heavy duty trucks from any of the manufacturers, they don't have to publicize what the fuel economy numbers are. That's why you never see them, and you pretty much just have to drive the trucks to figure out what they're going to provide, regardless of towing or untowing. Most of the time, your fuel economy numbers are going to be super, super bad when you're towing, and they'll be kind of average when you're not towing. I'm interested in seeing how the new gear ratios and some of the things they've done to the engine to make it quieter and make it more fuel efficient are actually going to impact the end user and what type of realistic real world numbers we're going to see. But what we do know, at least according to what I've been able to read about fuel, is that you get a 32-gallon tank with the 6.4 liter engine, and you get a 31-gallon tank with the diesel engine. Now, that might be reversed, but from what I've seen, that's what it looks like you're going to get. So that's kind of interesting to me because I was expecting fuel tanks in the 45, 50-gallon range, but it doesn't seem like we're going to get there with the Ram. If anything changes there, I will make a correction, but from the information that's currently available on this truck, you really only see the 31 and 32-gallon fuel tank options. So chime in on that one. Leave a comment below. What do you guys think? If the fuel economy has been dramatically improved, then that might be enough. But I think for most folks who are hauling RVs, they probably would like a larger tank, at least 36 gallons. Now, one area that Ram has definitely kind of stepped up to, I guess, win the war of power is going to be the onboard power system. So Ram now offers a 2.4 kilowatt onboard power system from the bed. It gives you 210 volt power outlets, so you can power all sorts of crazy things, all the way up to 2.4 kilowatts. Ford has Pro Power on board. I have it on my truck. It's essentially a 2,000 watt power system from the back of the vehicle, so you can also power things back there as well. But what Ford does, possibly a little different, is that they share the power across all your outlets. So I'm kind of interested in finding out if Ram gives you that 2.4 kilowatt capability purely from the bed of the vehicle, regardless of what's going on inside of the vehicle, and I'll look that up. Now finally, to kind of wrap this video up, let's talk about the interior of the truck. So Ram essentially has done to the interior of this new 2025 series heavy-duty lineup what they did to their half-ton truck a few years ago. They've given you some really, really beautiful screens, 14.5-inch screen in terms of your main infotainment screen. You have a beautiful full digital display on your higher trim vehicles as well for your dash cluster, and you also get like a 10.5 or 10.25-inch screen for the passenger front seat passenger. It's really, really cool to see what they've been able to do. And Again, this is something that they've been doing for a little while now with the Ram 1500 on the higher spec vehicles. On your lower spec vehicles, you get an 8.4-inch Uconnect screen. So you still get the super high resolution screen, as well as the gauge cluster that was from the previous generation higher trim packages. And you're getting that in the lowest trim package even. So regardless of what spec truck you get, what option package you get, what trim level, you're still getting a tremendous amount of technology, a beautiful interior. No longer are you going to have to worry about rotary dials in 3/4 ton and 1 ton trucks. They've moved away from that completely, and now you get a column shifter on all heavy duty trucks, which is something people have been asking for a while. You also have an absolutely beautiful dash setup. I have always been a fan of Ram's interiors. They've done a phenomenal job. The body itself is largely unchanged though from the interior perspective. You're not really going to gain any more like legroom in the back. The seats are pretty much the same, but there is nothing wrong with that because I think for most people, the rear seat legroom was perfectly fine. You didn't need any more. The seats are super comfortable and they've done a fantastic job overall with the comfort, the ergonomics, and the technology in this truck. So it's really nice to see that they've brought the stuff that matters into the new truck and they haven't changed the things that most people already liked about the current truck. So that is really cool to see, and I can definitely appreciate that. Okay, so that's going to do it for this video. I hope I provided you all with some information that perhaps you didn't get from other sources. I was trying to be pretty comprehensive in terms of some of the changes and some of the things that I think matter to most folks. Of course, one of the more difficult things to talk about is anything related to towing capacity or payload capacity, because that varies so dramatically from truck to truck, even if they may look the same from the outside. So it's super important to always deep dive into that, research the specific specs you need, and to find a truck that's going to meet those specs, even if sometimes the advertised information you see may not be totally clear. It's really important to spend the extra time to research that information. Anyways, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, I would really appreciate it if you took a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and hit that notification button so you know when new videos come out. I have a lot of videos coming out on the new Ram trucks. Hopefully the Media Drive event will take place sometime soon, and I'll be able to give you a first-hand approach of driving impressions, what it's like to tow, and what it's like to tow heavy. Guys, if you haven't had a chance, again, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.